Yo, welcome to Vega Bomberland once again, and you know who I got with me. It's Horror Mike.
Hey, how's it going?
And I'm digging the shirt, man. That's the first thing I noticed right there.
I'm a big Flash fan, and I'm a huge Run DMC fan. So when I saw, anyone who watches the show knows this phrase, Run Berry Run.
Yeah.
And when I saw they put it in the Run DMC font and lettering, I was like, sold. I can't buy this fast enough.
So that was a score, DC. When y'all put that together, y'all did the right thing there. A buyer for you. And actually, I want the same thing. If they do a Rakim, Eric B. and Rakim, rapper, somehow tie that to some superhero, that will work. Well, guys, you know, whenever I bring Horror Mike on, we're going to have a good old sit-down discussion about something that we've been talking about out there. Maybe you're talking about it with your friends. And we teased it a little bit since the last time we talked about what makes for a great villain, and that is we want to talk about the difference between plot holes and nitpicks. And why that started, and I'll tee us up real quick, Mike, and definitely want to hear from you on that, is that I've seen online, I'm sure you've seen it, where a movie comes out and people in the comment section of the video start going, oh, I didn't like this because this happened. That was such a big plot hole.
Yeah, plot hole this, plot hole that.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's like, that's not a plot hole, that's a nitpick. For example, getting upset that Hugh Jackman is Wolverine when in the comic books he's shorter, but in real life, obviously, Hugh Jackman is 6'2". That's not a plot hole, that's just a nitpick. It's personal taste, right?
Everyone can agree. That's a nitpick, yeah. Well, at least I would like to imagine everyone can agree that that's a nitpick, yeah.
Yeah, so we thought, okay, so then why don't we just then do it right? We'll go sit down today, and we want you to comment as well and let us know what you think. And if you think of some plot holes or some nitpicks, then hey, put it down in the comments, right?
Yeah, and I love reading a good like plot holes and stuff. It always makes you think. It makes you. The way I always see it is, plot holes don't always have to ruin a movie, but they make you be more critical of movies. You know, they gotta increase you start looking at movies with a more critical eye. That's right. And I love seeing plot because some of them are pretty funny where it's like, I didn't catch that, doesn't make sense. Because I've got a few that I've mentioned, one from a couple movies that I like, and it doesn't ruin the movie at all. Yeah. But I just love them because they're just very silly plot holes.
Yeah, and we're going to get into that because we're going to break this off into 3 sections just to kind of keep us focused. The first thing is we're going to define what a plot hole actually is and define a nitpick, and then we're going to go talk about the different versions of plot holes because there's not just one variety of plot holes, there's several versions. And then after that, we'll then talk about some of the examples of each of those from some specific movies. Some might be current, some might be old, some might even be from TV pilots, but we'll talk about them. So if that's it, then we're going to go ahead and launch. So as you know, this is what you should do. If you're going to try to have a conversation like this, always have some food and snacks for people to come over because that gets everybody calmed out. And, talk about it. And we're going to show you also, too, while you're watching this, how to have a difference of opinion without turning into a huge, humongous green rage monster.
Exactly.
Because I'm imagining we might have some different viewpoints on plot holes.
Exactly. We have this is why I'm really looking forward to our definitions of plot holes.
Yes. Because
I think this is where it's going to really differ how it affects our enjoyment of a movie. I think this is what people, when they bring up plot holes, people feel that, especially online, that one plot hole, movie's destroyed, not good, just a crap movie. Right. I think it's more nebulous. So I have, I think it's a lot more nebulous. I'm a lot more lenient. Okay. I'm gonna get into mine. When it comes to worst plot holes I've seen in a more recent movie, it's probably gonna be Force Awakens. I'm sorry, it's gonna get you a ton of dislikes already. Force Awakens of any recent movie probably has the most plot holes per like capita in movie that I've seen. Like I got a bunch of examples, and most of them are coming from Force Awakens, and they're not gonna be enjoyable plot holes. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of funny, right? So. Let's see your example of what a plot hole. So let's talk about that. We'll talk about the definition. So the definition of plot hole that I will be using today is a contradiction or inconsistency or a gap that somehow doesn't necessarily move the plot, and it has different variants. So for example, there's a plot hole that you could have that I would call a minor plot hole, and that's when it just has to do with a particular scene. So maybe they left something out of this scene that would have probably made sense based off of it. You didn't show it, but you left too much for the audience to try to figure that out. I would say then there's major plot holes
and I'm trying not to use my examples already because I want to save them.
Right, we got it.
There's the major plot hole where now it's something that the character is doing, not necessarily just the scene, but it's something that the character is doing that's inconsistent or is a gap or something with what we already know about that character that's already been established.
Exactly.
Right? And so some people so you see that a lot in X-Men movies because they're going back and forth through time a lot, which makes it harder to not step into a plot hole because people think about the future self and the past self, and time travel always makes things kind of messed up. And then I'd say there's probably the super variety, the ultimate plot hole, which is something that happens in the movie that doesn't necessarily just ruin a scene or not necessarily create problems with the character, but it messes with the whole overarching story itself. So if you have a story that says that Jedis only can do this, and then all of a sudden they do this, and it's against everything that's been established, now you're making us go, well, so have we changed the definition of Jedi now? Or have we? And when you start making a person do that, you're taking them out of the movie, and now they officially are possibly missing the next couple of scenes that are lined up to try to take you down another place.
You're busy trying to figure out what just happened.
Yes.
You're going to be missing more of it.
Yes.
Nope, we'll agree with that.
So I would say that. Now you can have some minor terms as well, like something like a plot contrivance. So that's just where let's just say the villain just does something that doesn't make sense. It's stupid. You spend all this time showing that the Joker is maniacal, but then all of a sudden he does something that's completely stupid, and you'd be like, well, the Joker wouldn't do that. Why is he doing that?
It doesn't necessarily affect the plot.
Yes.
But it is like, that's a weird thing for him to do. I don't understand why he could do that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This is going to be hard for us because we naturally speak in examples, because we will say something and even it's like this or it's like this. And it's like, well, we will find something that people will know and compare it to that.
Yes.
So the example I had was a plot hole very similar to yours. So mine's a little less detailed, so that leaves me a lot more open on it.
There you go.
Plot holes is a logical inconsistency in the plot or story.
Okay.
So under my definition, something like, even though again I'm super nebulous when it comes to plot holes, like I am super laid back with a story. So if in your example you gave, if Joker does something like that doesn't make any sense, why would he do that? That would be a plot hole for me. Tons of this in Force Awakens where it's like, why would a character do this? That makes no sense. And under my definition, that would be a plot hole.
Okay.
I couldn't really find a good definition for me for what a nitpick would be. That I think that I really...
But we're just talking plot holes right now.
Just plot holes right now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So when it comes to plot holes, it's a lot more nebulous. And I think the thing that will always affect me, there will always be... I really don't think there's any movie that's perfect.
Correct.
I really don't
That's
think.
a big statement he just made right there.
Yeah.
There is no such thing as a perfect movie. Let's just put that out there right now.
Even I'll use one of my examples. Joss Whedon says in Avengers, Avengers is a great movie. I think most people enjoy that movie. But even he says, he's like, well, wait a minute. If Thor got to Asgard and they have like that little one-off line about, oh yeah, I used some dark magic to get there. Yeah. Well, if he got there, how did he find Loki? Like, how did he know where he was? Like, it's a plot hole, but it doesn't affect the story at all. And they, at the very least, they try to answer. So in my nebulous kind of definition of a plot hole, doesn't affect the story too badly for me. Okay. A plot hole for me would have to be, wait a minute, why did that happen? Now I gotta figure that out while the story's going on. And now, or when I'm watching it, or after the movie's done, if I'm watching it, I think about, I'm like, well, okay, that plot hole happened, but why did that happen? Now that I think about it, well, if that happened, then why did this happen? And the movie just starts falling apart. I'm a lot more nebulous though. It sounds like yours leaves you a lot tighter, more defined. And what applies. Mine is super nebulous.
Now, do you have, like I mentioned, the different types of plot holes? Do you see that there's different varying degrees of plot holes, or do you just see plot hole as one entity?
No, there's no way. This is where we disagree. This is where we disagree with like the online comments. Okay. Is definitely, this is you and me totally agree on this. Right. There's no definitive, okay, by definition that is a plot hole, but there is a gradient, a nebulous to it. Like, so there's going to be Well, that plot hole didn't affect the story that bad. The story can keep going.
Right.
I got a couple of good examples of that from Civil War.
Okay.
Then you've got some that make the story stop, in my opinion. And it's like, what did I just see? How does that make any kind of sense? What's going on? Now I'm almost lost.
Yes.
Well, I wouldn't be lost, but you know what I'm saying. It takes me out of the plot.
Right.
So for me, the varying for me on my scale would be, how much does it take me personally out of the movie to try to figure out what just happened?
All right.
That's a big plot hole, and I think also a lot of people are saying things that are plot holes without really paying attention to the movie. It feels like people watch movies now.
Right.
It feels like we live in such a culture of criticism and nitpicks.
Right.
That people watch movies to find things wrong with them. They're not enjoying the story. Because I've seen so many where I'm like, that's not a plot hole. That was explained 2 lines of dialogue ago.
That does happen. So it happens a lot. So let's talk about them, because I think we kind of have a good handle on what a plot hole is then, whether yours is more tightly constricted like mine or whether you're a little bit more nebulous about it. You still have a good sense of what it is now. So to help contrast that, let's talk about then, what is a nitpick? Yeah, go ahead.
So when it comes to me for a nitpick, it's something that, in my opinion, doesn't affect the story, doesn't affect the plot, doesn't affect, honestly, anything in the movie but your own personal enjoyment. So if you could, what we live in right now is that a lot of people would have a nitpick and it affects their personal enjoyment, and they misinterpret that as a plot hole.
Right.
Because a plot hole can also affect your personal enjoyment.
Yes.
But the big difference is, for me, difference between a plot hole and a nitpick is that a nitpick is something that doesn't affect anything but you.
Okay.
Use a great example. I don't think anyone in their right mind would call Hugh Jackman being cast as Wolverine a plot hole.
Right.
But it is a nitpick that Wolverine is traditionally a short character. So it affects my believability that he can play Wolverine.
Yes.
I think that's a nitpick.
That's exactly a great example of it. We'll have more examples, but that's right on. And so I would say we're probably in 100% agreement there. To me, that's exactly what a nitpick is. A nitpick is just something that offends your personal taste when watching a movie. It wouldn't necessarily have to be anything else other than just your personal taste got offended. So, for example, I would say, I know we're trying to save our examples, but just so you're still with me on this one, it's like Jack Reacher, right? Okay. So in the book by Lee Childs, that he actually has several stories on Jack Reacher he's done. In those books, he is supposed to be 6'5", blonde-haired Chris Hemsworth type person. But obviously in the films, it's 5'8", Tom Cruise, dark-haired, blue eyes. And so there were a lot of people who are purists who love the books, which the books are great. If you've never read a Jack Reacher book written by Lee Childs, you're missing out. It's great storytelling at its best, and great twists and turns. He's a really smart writer. But if you let that keep you from going to the movie and enjoying the movie, which we all know that Tom Cruise is a great action star, so he can play this role. And in fact, I would make the argument that it's actually better to have it be a guy that's his stature, because that would make sense why people would want to gang up and beat him up. It wouldn't make sense that the street hoods would want to go up against a 6'5" Chris Hemsworth looking guy and fight him. That wouldn't make sense. But you would see where a bunch of guys would surround a 5'8" Tom Cruise guy.
Yeah, I think so you can say Tom Cruise.
There you go. There you go. Look out, Tom. Watch out. Watch out. But I think that, and so the people that now won't go see that, even though they're great fans of the book, I'm like, that's a nitpick to keep you from actually going and enjoying the movie, which I think he did a great job, and I'm looking for part 2. You know,
really, they put the trailer up for it. I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be good.
No, I don't think there's really anything I can add to that. I think you can nail on the head. It comes to, does it affect you? Does it affect your personal enjoyment? Did the movie do it?
Right.
Which it didn't. It just, I mean, okay, if we play semantics, technically the movie did it by casting him, but that didn't affect the story, didn't affect the performance, didn't affect anything objectively that you can rate. He did a great job. I love Jack Reacher.
Yes.
He did a great job. He did. For example, another good example of a nitpick is, I don't like a blonde-haired James Bond, but
that's a great one. Love that.
Daniel Craig is an amazing James Bond. I mean, I may not like it. My James Bond is probably Sean Connery and Pierce Brosnan till the end of days. But I can't say, oh, he did terrible because he has blonde hair.
Yeah.
The story didn't work because he had blonde hair.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Nitpick.
Yeah, that's totally cool.
Exactly. And I really feel that that's what a lot of people are misconstruing with plot holes nowadays. So
yeah, I think you're right. And so with that, since we've defined what a nitpick and a plot hole is, we've talked a little bit about the different variations of a plot hole, because again, you've got major ones and minor ones as far as I'm concerned. There's certain things that can happen in a particular scene which still doesn't change the whole story, which is where I would go minor on. And then there's things that obviously just, well, we're going there. Let's get into the big part of this video, which is going to be the examples of this stuff happening, which I know that's what you guys are waiting on. You're like, come on, give me an example. So I'm going to do something. This is going to be interesting here for you, my horror mic, is this, okay? It'd be easy for me to pick on certain movies, and I probably still will. But I'm going to take the beloved original trilogy of Star Wars, and I'm going to give you what I consider to be minor. Okay, so I'll take A New Hope, for example. Now here's a minor plot hole. Now the idea that the escape pod was jettisoned,
and everyone's getting ready to hit that dislike button. This is all I'll bring over.
You get ready. We're going to serve it up anyway, though. Right? The truth will set you free. If you're not offending people, then you're not doing your job right? Yep. But so in A New Hope, and this isn't huge. This is a very minor. I call this a very minor plot hole. The idea that an escape pod gets jettisoned, and the reasoning is, oh, but there was no life forms on it. That seems weird in a universe where we know there are androids and droids. So it seems like to me,
logical inconsistency with the world and the plot.
Yes. So to me, that's a minor plot hole in a film. And let's see, what do you got?
So a minor plot hole for me. And I'm gonna go ahead and just dislike it now because you insulted Star Wars. I'm checked out. But my inconsistency for me was one of my favorite. And keep in mind, as my nickname implies, I love horror movies. Yes. So I think that's where my kind of laid backness on plot holes comes from. Because if I was super tight on every horror movie plot hole, and then keep in mind my favorite franchise is Friday the 13th, I wouldn't enjoy any horror movie. I mean, it's like, hey, you know there's a killer on the loose, let's have sex. Let's have premarital sex right here. Yeah, we'll be alright. Alright, so one of my personal favorites is in Jurassic Park. The famous scene when they're stuck on the road and the T-Rex comes from out of the fence, from outside of the fence, and then it starts messing with them, alright? Right. So here's where the plot hole comes in. Right. When the car then gets flipped over the side of the thing, it's a sheer drop. Right. So how did T-Rex get up there?
Yeah. I forgot about that.
Yep. Remember, they are hanging on, and they're like, oh my God, we're gonna fall. It's like a 30-foot. It's not something the T-Rex is like, I'm gonna hop over. No, and the T-Rex just walked on over. Even Steven Spielberg's admitted, oops. But it's such a powerful scene. You don't even think about it. But it doesn't affect the story at all. It still adds a layer of drama. It doesn't. There isn't a huge. It doesn't affect the story one bit. Yes. And that's one of my favorite little plot holes that I've always liked. Yeah. It's just such a silly little thing. I've always loved it.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good one. I mean, I think another minor one before we go to the majors and the next, another minor plot hole would be, for example, I think about The Force Awakens. So I'll take an easy target now. I took a harder target before. Now I'll take an easy one.
Because I'm getting my back.
Yeah, my back ready for that one, right? You about to club down, right? Oh man, so, like a baby seal. No, we're not saying club baby seals. Don't even do it. Don't even do it. That's what we're saying. It's a joke. A little satire there. That's all it is. Satire. S-A. Well, you know how to spell it.
Yeah, right.
So I would say, like in The Force Awakens, I thought it was a minor plot hole that after the death of Han Solo, that Princess Leia and Chewbacca don't share a moment because Chewie is his big. This is his co-pilot, and Chewie and Leia have more of a relationship together than she does with Rey. Yet Chewie just walks right past her, and she doesn't even acknowledge him.
Then you mean Leia? You said Han and
when Han died.
You mean why didn't Leia
Yes.
No, I agree. That's a small plot hole for me where it's like, why did you... The inconsistency in this world. Leia has literally, in this movie, never met Rey before.
Yes.
So why are you hugging her instead of the Chewbacca who you know and has a close... The three of you have a close relationship.
And who you gave you a big hug earlier on in the movie. So it's established that she didn't get amnesia all this time in between the Return of the Jedi and the Force Awakens. She very much remembers Chewie. They shared a great warm moment earlier in the film when C-3PO did the cock block with the whole red arm thing.
You made no sense. I enjoyed that scene. It was funny though.